spectroscopy is nothing but interaction of matter with radiation. And this is what happens if you send the radiation on the molecule or element. So what will happen? The electron will be exciting into the from ground state to excited state. So once the absorption takes place, the excitation occurs. Okay. This is the overview of all spectroscopies, that is from gamma rays to microwaves. Vertically, we are taking the energy in electron volts and the corresponding operation or corresponding process, what will happen parallelly during the absorption. Okay. If you are sending the microwave radiation, what will happen? The energy corresponds to microwaves is 0.0001 electron volt. Only molecule will rotate. Okay. And if you send the 0.5 electron volts, the molecules will vibrate. Molecules will vibrate. If you send the 2 electron volts energy, that is electronic transitions will happen in this visible range, and even UV range, the electronic transitions will happen. Okay, this is UV visible spectroscopy and vibrational spectroscopy and microwave spectroscopy. All these 3 spectroscopies we are using. If you see the response of the molecule with electromagnetic radiation with respect to wavelength, frequency, and energy. And our question is why carrot is in orange color. With this lecture, we will answer why it is in orange. Let us. Not only in orange, it has in violet and other colors also. The white tomato is in red color. Even fruits are in different colors. The reason we will, and even our human skin color is will be varying from latitude to the one near to equator. We will be having mostly the high melanin content. Due to that, our skin color will be black. Even animals, due to the melanin presence, so we will be. This is the molecule which is responsible for skin color. And without this, what will happen? That is an deficiency of this melanin will be leading to a disease called albinism. Okay. Let us answer those previous slides. So prior to that, which molecules will give you visible spectroscopy? The molecules which contains nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and halogen atoms will give UV visible spectroscopy. The main requirement for this UV visible spectroscopy is molecule should have nitrogen, oxygen, and sulfur, and even conjugation, a double bond, so 5 bond. The molecules which are having double bond, the molecules which are having nitrogen, oxygen, and sulfur and halogen atoms, they will be giving UV visible spectroscopy. Then, before going to UV visible spectroscopy, let us see the importance of UV. We can classify UV rays in 3, UVA, B, C category. You see that mostly these highly energetic things, B and C, will be blocked by our ozone, and A will be reaching. If you come to the applications of UV visible radiation, if you want to coat the paint, or if you want to coat certain things, and if you want to dry, we are using UV radiation. Like a microwave radiation, we can use IR radiation for drying. Similarly, we can use UV visible radiation. Okay. And even for 3D objects, if you want to dry, we can use UV visible radiation. The advantage of this thing is 3-dimensionally we can. Since it is a light, it can we can pass the UV light or UV radiation in three-dimensionally. That is the advantage of UV ray. And even composite material can be cured. See that if you want to cure or if you want to make this type of composite things, then UV curing or UV light will be used for drying these composite materials. And even if you want to treat the smoke and odor reduction, we are treating it with UV radiation. And municipal water treatment can be done even by UV treatment. They will be using 254 nanometer UV, that is UVC radiation. They will be this UVC radiation or 254 nanometer radiation. What it can, it will destroy the cell wall of bacteria or whatever, even virus. There's a few viruses can be destroyed by UV light. Okay, UV radiation will spoil or it will damage the cell wall. If you are damaging the cell wall, so what will happen? Automatically cell will die. Okay, that is the advantage of UV light. Okay, and the advantage of the UV light is this, but drawback of this UV light is turbidity, refractive index. As I told you yesterday in Beer-Lambert's law, high turbid samples, Beer-Lambert's law will not work. Similarly, UV light cannot penetrate if more than 50 ppm, 15 ppm, that is 15 milligram per liter. If any turbid material, if it is there, UV cannot pass. Okay, that is the drawback of UV ray. And the generation of a monochromatic radiation with the help of monochromator, how we are generating by changing the angle between two mirrors, we are getting the monochromatic radiation. Let us see the Beer-Lambert's law. When a monochromatic light, if you are passing through a transparent absorbing medium, absorbance is directly proportional to thickness of the medium and length of the medium. Okay, thickness of the medium or length of the medium and concentration of the medium. Okay, the derivation of this Beer-Lambert's law is this: A is equal to epsilon BC. If you come to the instrumentation part of UV visible spectroscopy, it has the following components. One is source and monochromator, prism and sample holder, solvents for UV spectroscopy and detectors. These are the main components of UV visible spectroscopy equipment. Okay, source for UV visible radiation is tungsten lamp we use. The tungsten lamp in still we are using tungsten lamp in our rural areas. The wavelength of the tungsten lamp will be from 350 to 800 nanometers. And if you come to the hydrogen or deuterium lamp, the wavelength will be from 160 to 350 nanometers, and xenon lamp 200 to 1000 nanometers. Within this, xenon lamp is expensive and short lifetime it will be having, but remaining tungsten lamp and hydrogen lamp, they will be having quite lifetime. It's a quite good lifetime. So we can prefer even if you want to see entire UV visible radiation, we can make an exchange or exchangeable light. That means we will be keeping these both lamps, that is tungsten lamp and hydrogen lamp. So what will happen? It will be scanning from 160 nanometer to 800 nanometers. Okay, with tungsten lamp itself, we cannot go from 200 nanometer to 800 nanometers, and we can club it with either deuterium or hydrogen lamp, and we can go for the. And the black diagram of UV visible spectroscopy is this. See that light source will be there and monochromator will be there, and monochromator will be giving monochromatic radiation, and the monochromatic radiation will be interacting with our sample. See it light green color, which is there in glass cuvette or quartz cuvette. Cuvette is nothing but sample container. which is made up of with either glass or quartz. If you are going for UV, quartz we will be using. If you are going for visible, you are using glass. So now the monochromator is giving monochromatic radiation. The monochromatic radiation will pass through our sample cell now. Our sample is having absorbing medium. That is a sample. Now, let us assume if I am keeping an acetone or acetic acid in this, what will happen? Since acetic acid molecule has carbonyl, and what are the transitions we can expect? We can expect pi to pi star transition and n to pi star transition. Those transitions we will be seeing in UV visible spectra. Okay, in spectra we will be seeing the corresponding transitions in the form of peak. Okay, so finally after absorption, what will happen? Transmitted radiation will come, and transmitted radiation will be detected by our PMT or detectors of UV ray. Okay, UV radiation detectors will be there. Those detectors will detect our transmitted intensity, our transmitted radiation intensity. Okay, this is the black diagram of our UV visible spectroscopy. One light source will be there, one monochromator will be there, sample will be there. And if you are sending the monochromatic radiation, sample will absorb the radiation, and the transmitted radiation intensity will be detected by UV detector. And finally, we'll be seeing with the help of amplifier, and we could able to see that intensity in the form of UV visible spectra. Okay. And even we are using prism in this. Why we are using the prism? In order to disperse our radiation. Polychromatic radiation, just we are, if you are keeping a prism, what will be the advantage of prism? We can disperse the radiation. That is the advantage of prism. And we are using two types of sample containers or cuvettes. What we call it as the cuvette, glass cuvette and quartz cuvette. If you want to record only visible spectra, we can go for glass cuvette or glass thing. And if you are recording UV, particularly, we are going for quartz cuvette. This is nothing but cuvette. Okay, this rectangular shape, whatever we are seeing in this slide, that is nothing but cuvette. Okay, it's a sample cell or sample container. Okay, the green color solution is the sample. That sample may be solid, liquid, and even gas. Let us, if it is a solid and solid concentration is high, as per our Beer-Lambert's law, it should be in liquid medium. That means we have to dissolve our sample in suitable solvent. Once if we dissolve the sample, and we can fill it this cuvette with our sample, and we can record the UV visible spectroscopy. Even we can take directly the solid samples, but that is a solid state UV visible spectroscopy. Okay, and even liquids can be done and solids can be done. But if you want to see if you want to test the Beer-Lambert's law, we have to dissolve. It is a must. We have to dissolve our sample in suitable solvent. Okay. These are the sample containers which we are, the detectors which we are using in UV visible spectroscopy, or there's a fixed wavelength detectors we are, and photodiode array detector or diode array detector, DAD or PAD we call it as, and variable wavelength detectors. So mostly the people will be using these three types of detectors. Okay. We will be using three types of detectors. We are having commercially two types of visible spectrometers or spectroscopy equipments. One is single beam spectroscopy. Second one is double beam spectroscopy. What is meant by single beam and double beam? In double beam spectroscopy, there will be a reference, but in single beam spectroscopy, there won't be any reference. Okay. Let us see the difference between single beam and double beam. This is a double beam, a black diagram of a double beam UV visible spectra. See that initially we are getting the light from the top, and we are passing through slit, and the entire thing is called a monochromator. The mirror 4, mirror 2, mirror 3, everything. Okay. from slit 2 to mirror 3. The entire setup is known as monochromator. Okay, monochromator. Now, once if you are getting the monochromatic thing, we are having two cuvettes. One is reference cuvette and one is sample cuvette. Why we are keeping reference cuvette? As we have discussed earlier, if you want to record solid visible spectroscopy, we are dissolving in suitable solvent, and solvent will become reference because solvent has refractive index, and solvent also may have some electronic transitions. Okay, and solvent will be absorbing certain thing from this thing. That is the reason we are keeping an reference cell separate, and in sample cuvette what we take reference, that is solvent plus our sample. Both the things we are keeping in sample cuvette, and we are sending monochromatic radiation, and reference will absorb certain thing and we will be detecting. Okay, and the second one, our sample cuvette also will absorb certain thing, and here we have to do the calibration, or we have to do the, or we have to remove the, our reference wavelength from the sample wavelength. Why we are having two things here in reference cuvette? Let us, I am recording the acetone U visible spectra. Okay, acetone is a liquid. Still, I want to record this acetone in solvent. I will be dissolving it in hexane. Okay, acetone is soluble in hexane, and hexane I am keeping in reference cuvette, and in sample cuvette what I am keeping acetone plus hexane. Okay, and acetone plus hexane. Okay, here in reference cuvette we are taking, hexane. Okay, and in sample cuvette we are taking hexane plus acetone. What we are doing in this is we are recording acetone U visible spectra. Okay, this is the ethylene molecule. Okay, and ethylene molecule we are sending the UV rays. What happens? Electron will be going from ground level to excited level. Spin inversion is there. What is the meaning? Triplet state, but there is no spin inversion, spin retention. A red color arrow, however, it is there in the ground state, in excited state also it is there. This is called spin retention. Spin is retained. Okay, this is called spin retention. Spin retention is nothing but our singlet state. Spin inversion means this red color arrow will be going upward. In that case, the multiplicity of this thing is triplet. Here now pi to pi star singlet, and pi to pi star triplet also will be there. That is spin inversion. Similarly, for 1,3-butadiene, see that if you are sending the UV rays, what happens? 132 kilocalories of energy is required per mole, and it will be absorbing the energy at 217. That is the lambda max, what we call it as absorption maxima. A equal to epsilon BC. Here we are A value where it is happening, absorbance where it is happening. For ethylene molecule 165 nanometers, for 1,3-butadiene molecule 217 nanometers it is. This is the U visible spectrum of ethylene molecule. You see one double bond, and we have taken an x-axis epsilon value, not an absorbance. We have taken epsilon value on y-axis. We can take even a absorbance or epsilon, both the things. But at present we are having epsilon value, and I have applied a logarithmic scale on epsilon because it will be in 10 powers. I have to short it. That is the reason we have applied for log scale. And what is the maximum absorption? At which point it is? The absorption will happen at 160 or 165 nanometers. The maximum absorption has happened at 165 nanometers. You see that this is an UV visible spectrum of ethylene molecule. Ethylene molecule. Similarly, this is the UV visible spectrum of 1,3-butadiene molecule. What is the absorption maxima? 240 nanometers or 240 or 243 nanometers. Okay, this is the absorption maxima. And 135 hexatriene. You see, we are increasing the double bond. Initially, how many double bonds? One double bond, 165, it is absorbing. Two double bonds means 217. Three double bonds means it is going to 258. You see that it is still increasing. 240 to 258 it increased. Similarly, if you are increasing the number of double bonds, the absorption wavelength will be increased. And finally, the acetone or acetic acid UV visible spectra, you see, here we are seeing two peaks. One is at 210, and one is at 240 or 230. One peak corresponds to pi to pi star. The intensity of pi to pi star is very high. The intensity of N to pi star is very low. Okay, two peaks are there in this. One is like a shoulder, one is like an high intensity. Okay, high intensity where it is around 214 or 210. This is the acetic acid UV visible spectra. And one more peak is at 240 or 235. This intensity is low. This is N to pi star transition because acetic acid has carbonyl group. Carbonyl has both electrons. N electrons and 5 electrons. 5 bond it has and N electrons it has. That is the reason we are. And for acetone, we are seeing only one peak at this, that is pi to pi star transition at 265 or 272 nanometers. Okay, this is the UV visible spectrum of acetone. And if you see one complicated molecule which is having amine, which is having benzene, and which is having double bond and aldehyde, you see clearly two peaks we are seeing for this. One is at 255. This 255 corresponds to N to pi star transition. This 395 peak is corresponds to pi to pi star transition. The intensity of pi to pi star is always higher than N to pi star. That we know well. Okay, why? The orbitals are perpendicular to each other in N to pi star. That is the reason N electron cannot enter into pi star. That is the thing. And the electronic transitions of various chromophores or functional groups, let us, for ethene 165 or 171 it is, that is pi to pi star transition. Epsilon value is 15,000. The solvent used for this ethane is hexane. In hexane 171. That means this lambda max is depending on the solvent. If you change the solvent, lambda max will change. If you change the solvent, lambda max will change. You keep in mind, this lambda max depends on the solvent. The lambda max is depending on number of double bonds, that is number of conjugations. These are the two important factors which are deciding the lambda max. And if you come to the hexane triple bond, pi to pi star 180, solvent is hexane. Why? What is the difference between this? It has one double bond, it has two double bonds. See that hexane has two double bonds. The wavelength is increasing. That means number of double bonds, if you are increasing, lambda max is increased. For carbonyl compound, ethanol, or you can take it as formaldehyde. Formaldehyde, we are getting two peaks. For pi to pi star 180 nanometers, N to pi star we are getting 290. What is the solvent? Hexane we are using. And what is the epsilon value for pi to pi star? 10,000. What is the epsilon value for N to pi star? 15. You see the difference between pi to pi star and N to pi star. These values, by seeing these values, we can explain the differences between N to pi star and pi to pi star transition. Okay, N to pi star and pi to pi star transition. And nitromethane, similarly, nitromethane has both double bond and single bond and oxygen. It will be giving N to pi star and pi to pi star, and epsilon value 5017 and lambda max value. And for halogens, you see that even for halogens case also it will be. Okay, this is about electronic transitions. Okay, and let us see the, I hope you might have heard these words, bathochromic effect and hypsochromic effect. If you are recording this particular compound, alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl compound, in nonpolar solvent and polar solvent, that means nonpolar means let us take hexane, and polar means let us take acetone. It's not acetone, let us take another methanol. Now what happens, you see that we have not shown all the energy levels. Sigma is not required. Sigma to sigma star we have removed. The reason is we are not interested in it. Now we have shown only pi, n, pi star. And pi to pi star, what is the energy gap? Higher. And what is the gap between n to pi star? Lower. In presence of non-polar solvent, the energy of n to pi star is, you see that n to pi star is lower. In presence of polar solvent, n to pi star gap is higher. That means energy gap is increased or decreased. If the energy gap is decreased, it is called bathochromic shift. Energy is decreased, wavelength is increased. Wavelength is increased, that is known as bathochromic shift. If energy gap is increased, wavelength will be decreased. That is called, you see that is called hypsochromic effect, blue shift. We call it as bathochromic shift as in red shift and hypsochromic shift as in blue shift. I hope you understand this. And this is the effect of solvent on pi to pi star and n to pi star transitions. Okay. If you are having any doubts at this point, please let me know. What is the bathochromic shift? It is energy level is increasing. Why it is increasing? Because of polar solvents and because of non-polar solvent. Solvent polarity is an influencing factor at this. Okay. Bathochromic shift, and you see the effect of conjugation on lambda max. 1 double bond 162, 2 double bonds 217, 3 double bonds 258, 4 double bond 296, 5 double bonds 335, 8 double bonds 415. You see 8 double bonds is there, 415 orange color. See why we are calling carrot is or why we are saying carrot is in orange color? As per our observation, as per our experimental observation. Now what is the thing? Our beta carotene should have minimum 8 double bonds or more than 8 double bonds. What happens if you are increasing the number of double bonds? The energy gap is decreasing. You see that electronic transition is easy. For 1 double bond, the gap is high. For 2 double bonds, the gap is decreased. For 3 double bonds, gap is still decreased. For 4 double bonds, decreased. If you see 8 double bonds, still it is decreased. Like a VB and CB. For conductors, semiconductors and insulators, how we are in similar manner, we could able to see the same thing. If energy gap is decreased and transition is happened, epsilon value will be higher. Epsilon value will be higher. If energy is decreased, lambda value will be higher. Okay, that you keep in mind. Energy versus lambda, if you know the relation, the entire thing can be understand. It is easy. Okay. Now you see, we will explain why this carrot is in orange color. You see that beta carotene is the reason why carrot is in orange color. You see, you count the double bonds. How many double bonds? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 double bonds it has. That is the reason at which wavelength this beta carotene will absorb the radiation. 452 nanometers. At 452 nanometers, this beta carotene is absorbing the UV visible radiation. Suppose let us take a retinol molecule. If 2 retinol molecules are 2 vitamin A's, this is the vitamin A. Retinol is nothing but a vitamin A. Okay. Why we used to prefer carrot for carotene? Why we require? It is a dimer of 2 vitamin A's. It is a dimer of 2 vitamin A's. That is the reason we require this. Okay. Why we prefer carotene? This is the thing. And why it is giving orange color. Now you understand. It has 9 double bonds. and 9 double bonds will be absorbing at which wavelength? 452 nanometers. Okay, 452 nanometers is in our visible range. That is the reason we are seeing orange color in carats. Okay, and other colors, same reason, it may be, and the substituents may be different, or the length of the chain will be different. So for tomato, lycopene also similar to this, more than 8 double bonds it will be having. I hope 14 double bonds. The lycopene will have a red color. And similarly, anthocyanins, different colors of our fruits. Why? The reason is anthocyanins. Anthocyanins will, anthocyanins are the responsible for most of the fruits colors. Okay, students. And one more important thing, just you see here, alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl compounds in presence of C double bond C. What is that? 165 nanometers. If oxygen is there, the difference you see, the same pi to pi star, what happens? It become 190 nanometers, 165 to 190. The wavelength is increased. You see that pi to pi star, the wavelength is increased. That means, what is the meaning? Energy is decreased. This is vice versa, value is increasing. Pi to pi star, what is the value? 165 nanometers. For C double bond, what is the value? 190 nanometers. Wavelength is increased, energy is decreased. And the N2 pi star, see that N2 pi star around how many nanometers? 280 nanometers it is. Here, the solvent will play a major role and number of double bonds will play a major role. Okay, solvent polarity will play a major role. If it is a non-polar, it's a bathochromic, and if it is a polar, bathochromic, hypsochromic things we can. Okay, if it is a non-polar, there is no bathochromic or hypsochromic shift. If you are going to the polar, it will be, because it is an electronic transition. Polarity will have definitely influence on electron excitation. That is the reason. Okay. And this is a simple diagram which explains our bathochromic and hypsochromic. Higher the wavelength, bathochromic; lower the wavelength, hypsochromic or blue shift. Higher the intensity, hyperchromic; lower the intensity, hypochromic. Okay. The four effects: effects on intensity, effect on wavelength, okay, effect on double bond, effect on the polarity of the solvent. All these are the factors which are influencing the absorption. Okay. And even conjugated and trans-conjugated molecules, so which is giving yellow color. This is the reason 242 nanometers and 400 pi to pi star. Okay, at 400 nanometers we are seeing, and it is in yellow color, and here 390 it is in a red color.